I looked at Alex smugly. But he had a cold expression on his face and lifted me up from his lap. I'm getting a divorce soon. I looked at him confused. I already know. Men who divorce are looked down upon in this society. Alex sighed lightly, his gaze towards me tinged with a hint of grievance. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at him. Regardless of him being a CEO, just based on his appearance, who would believe that he couldn't find another wife? I teasingly asked him. So what do you want to do? Either you get Effie back for me, or you compensate me by being with me. I thought about the following plot. The men who were enticed by Effie had indeed used a series of methods to gradually turn me into a pauper. Rather than begging on the streets, it was better to make Alex my long-term meal ticket. I pondered for a moment. Deal, I'll pack my bags. No need, I have everything there. Alex held my hand, and after leaving the villa with 2 divorce agreements behind, he drove me away. As the car drove along the mountain road, at the edge of the grassy slope halfway up the mountain, I saw the clothes Effie had taken off and her flushed face. This is indeed the world of an erotic novel. The scene is really erotic. It must be said that Alex is truly a breath of fresh air in this world of erotic novels. He brought me to his spacious apartment by the river. Each of us had our own bedroom, clearly demarcated. After packing up my things, I was going to close the door to sleep, but he held the door panel with one hand. He had just finished showering. His delicate bangs covered his eyes, giving him an inexplicably melancholic temperament. I will prove my sincerity to you through my actions. He stared earnestly into my eyes, as if he was looking at something precious. As the only pure love character in this erotic novel, his wife constantly cheated on him. The person he liked has now disappeared because of me. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but feel guilty towards Alex. Okay, got it. I nodded. He smirked, his eyes filled with tenderness, and then gentlemanly closed the door. Have a good night. I lay in bed for a long time, unable to fall asleep. I was thinking, perhaps after the plot of the original book ends, Alex would really find the original Irene, who is in a sorry state, and change her with love. But everything changed because of me. After being here for so long, I felt guilt and self-blame for the first time. After a night of contemplation, I decided to document the details of my time spent with Alex through photographs and writing. I would leave these things behind for the real Irene after I leave. This way, she would understand Alex's sincerity. And I would no longer be someone who influenced Alex's life. I came out of the bedroom with dark circles under my eyes in the morning, and I saw breakfast already laid out on the table. In the exquisite European-style plate, there was a very impressive pancake roll neatly arranged. Eggs, sausages, bacon, beef, it seemed like all the ingredients in the shop were added. Alex saw me and waved at me. Come and have breakfast. After taking a good photo, I satisfactorily took a big bite of the pancake roll. When I was working in my own world before, I had thought about eating like this. But I didn't have a chance to try it before I transmigrated into this novel. I looked up at Alex again. He was adding ice to his coffee, 1 piece, 2 pieces. When he reached the 6th piece, he stopped. That familiar feeling surged up again, but I just couldn't remember. After finishing the meal, he went to work and I stood at my post, and we didn't bother each other. Only one male lead was left to complete the plotline, my security guard, Jeremy. Although he worked as a private security guard, he actually owned a taekwondo gym. Just because he had a fetish for uniforms, he kept working as a security guard in various wealthy households. This fetish was really explosive. This pervert was the one who had coveted Effie for the longest time in the male lead group. And he was also the only one who was willing to take the initiative to seduce her. His way of seduction was also explosive. He would wear all sorts of strange and sexy clothes and clean the windows in front of Effie. You really wouldn't believe it, but Effie fell for it. To make Jeremy quickly win over the female lead, I bought him many sets of shameful and sexy suits in the private design room. And I plan to mail them to him tomorrow. After taking a shower, I saw a message from the studio saying that the clothes had already been delivered. With the joyous feeling that the novel's plot was about to come to a successful end, I happily opened the bedroom door to go and sign for the delivery. In the instant I looked up, I directly petrified in place. Alex was wearing a servant outfit that should not be seen by others, and the tied apron made him appear broad-shouldered and narrow-waisted. The sheer shirt couldn't completely cover his perfectly lean chest muscles. This man, he captivated my eyes. Looking further down, his pants. Forget it, I dare not look. Alex's temperament had always been lazy and indifferent. But at this moment, the bunny ears on his head broke that temperament. He stood there, like a fox spirit from an ultra-exclusive club that I could never afford even if I saved money for a lifetime. I stood there motionless, hesitated for a moment, and then took out my phone to take a picture. This scene was definitely something to be saved for the real Irene to enjoy in the future. Perhaps my reaction was unexpected for Alex. He also froze, and asked me dryly, "Don't you like it?" I thought you would like this kind of cosplay when I saw the package. He casually picked up a tight leather jacket with a delicate chain. Or should I try this one? There was no need, one piece was enough. The rest should be saved for plot development. While I hesitated on how to explain the whereabouts of these clothes, a strange red color appeared on his face. He hesitated and spoke, "Master, do you want to eat something?" Oh my God! Who knows, it turns out that Alex really loves Irene. He actually said such shameful words for Irene. I screamed and jumped up from the ground, embarrassedly grabbing the blanket from the sofa and throwing it at him. I admit that you've pleased me, but now please cover yourself immediately. I'm not some pervert who wants to try every trick. I flew back to the bedroom and lay on the bed with a dizzy head. I must admit that Alex's charm attracted me. I have a feeling that I've turned my daydreams of playing Otome games into reality. Regardless of gender, desire can cloud one's judgment. When I went out again, Alex had already changed his clothes. He was wearing a neatly tailored black suit and holding a coat as if he was about to go out. Seeing me, he opened his mouth to explain his whereabouts. "I need to go to the company for a meeting." "Okay. I'll have dinner by myself." He stopped his steps towards the entrance and suddenly came over to hug me gently. The icy scent of cedar on his body instantly enveloped me. "I work hard to earn money to support you, so a reward is not too much, right?" His breath sprayed on my neck, tickling me. I awkwardly stood still and reluctantly responded with a muffled "all right." Even after Alex left, my unruly heart was still pounding. After all, who hasn't fantasized about dating a CEO during their teenage years? In this journey through the novel, I guess I've made some profit. Under my clever arrangement, Effie successfully completed the plot of meeting Jeremy naked. But strangely, the plot did not end here. I called the system in vain and could only wait patiently. No longer being Effie's action movie security guard, my days suddenly became boring. It seemed like my life was only left with Alex. He is a very careful and patient person. He would accompany me in completing a puzzle of 10,000 pieces, and then hide the last piece for me to find. When I found it, there was a necklace prepared by him under the puzzle. He would also play with me and stomp in puddles on rainy days. At night, he would accompany me in making bubbles in the bathroom. It felt like no matter how childish things I did, he could laugh and accept me. I leaned on the edge of the bathtub, the floor, the bathtub itself, and even the ceiling were filled with bubbles we blew. I laughed and tried to poke them, but Alex grabbed my hand. The relaxed and joyful atmosphere suddenly became calm and tense. Seeing me on guard, Alex lowered his head and chuckled softly. He pinned me against the edge of the bathtub. "Now, do you like me a little?" he asked softly. This posture was dominant yet gentle, and I blushed in his arms. The thin paper that had been suppressed in my heart was pierced. Indeed, I liked him. Just as I was hesitating to tell him the truth about being trapped in a book, my feet slipped and I grabbed onto Alex's waistband, causing us both to fall down. The confession that night ended with me breaking my arm. I moved into the hospital. Alex had his own things to do and could only accompany me for half a day at most. I lay alone on the bed, bored and idle, and started thinking about this book again. I started recalling from the first chapter, and when I was halfway through, I suddenly remembered the synopsis of this book. Effie Storm, after obtaining all the sincerity and resources, kidnapped her malicious sister and threw her into the sea. With Irene Storm's death, Effie finally found peace. No wonder I couldn't leave this novel world. It turns out there was still this ordeal. Although I transmigrated into the novel, I'm still a little afraid of experiencing death. I pulled away the blanket covering my head and met someone's gaze. That person is my former security guard, Jeremy, who likes role-playing. Hello, Jeremy. I greeted with a pout, and the next second I lost consciousness. I was awakened by a series of ambiguous and erotic moans. I opened my eyes drowsily and inexplicably saw some nudity that I shouldn't have seen. So annoying. I immediately closed my eyes again. Jeremy was panting heavily. Baby, you are amazing. Half an hour later, Neil was panting heavily. Effie, I love your body. Half an hour later, Mark was panting heavily. Sweetheart, one time again? The timing of these guys is quite even. The words used by Jeremy and Effie on the bed were too explosive, and I couldn't bear to listen anymore. So I opened my throat and shouted, I want to drink water. After a moment of silence, Effie walked over naked. Her eyes were still red, and her body was covered in bruises, which almost made me want to poke my own eyes out. Put on some clothes. I assented. Disgusting enough? I silently added the second half of the sentence in my mind. Effie casually smoothed her hair by her ear. How does it feel, sis? Does it feel good to have everything taken away by me? Although I'm not angry from my perspective, I still have to play along with her. You shameless person. Are you proud to seduce so many men? I glared at her angrily. As soon as I finished speaking, her male lead stood behind her, all dressed. Damn, do you really think you're the protector? I rolled my eyes. What do you want to do? I want you to disappear. You bullied me since we were young. You wanted to take away everything from me. Everything is yours. This female lead is really funny. Although she is the female lead, the wealth in Irene's family originally belonged to her mother. Effie's mother remarried and brought her over, yet she still has the audacity to claim that those branded jewelry belonged to her? I'm not in the mood to listen to her reminiscing about the past. Don't talk about all this nonsense. Weary sisters, kill me if you can. Effie laughed. Do you think you can die so easily? Dream on. Aren't you most afraid of water? Let me let you die in the water, okay? As soon as she finished speaking, a few men on the side lifted me up and carried me outside. For men carrying one woman, aren't you guys embarrassed? I sat in the back seat of the car, looking at the faint coastline, feeling both happy and sad. If only I could see Alex again. Suddenly, a car behind us honked its horn and sped up. Kevin, the driver, changed his expression and stepped on the gas to overtake it. Though I couldn't turn my head, I knew it was Alex. The car swerved left and right, disappearing into the distance, and tears welled up in my eyes. I was moved and worried about Alex's safety. A loud screech of brakes sounded, and there were no more sounds of other vehicles behind us. Kevin sneered, "Idiot. What did you do to him?" I anxiously tried to break free from Jeremy's control and look back, but he pushed me back forcefully. "You should worry about yourself." The moving car came to a stop, and they dragged me out and pushed me towards the edge of the cliff. Effie smiled and patted my face. "As you sow, so shall you reap. Goodbye, sister." Jeremy pushed me down, and the sea water instantly engulfed me. My nostrils filled with water, causing a piercing pain in my head. So this is what it feels like to drown. I struggled to remember, but my limbs were tightly bound. My head bobbed in the waves. And in my hazy vision, I heard the sound of a siren. At the same time, it seemed like Alex was swimming towards me. I sank to the bottom of the sea. I couldn't hold on any longer and prepared to relax, accepting death with a calm expression. I wanted to die looking good. Suddenly, a pair of hands grabbed my arm. He desperately pulled at the iron chains on me, but couldn't break them. I shook my head at him, even though I didn't know if he could hear me, and gurgled in the water. "I like you too." Ding dong, a system prompt sounded. Congratulations to host Lucia Hood for completing the mission and returning to the real world. Congratulations to host Claude Bush for completing the mission and returning to the real world. When I opened my eyes again, I was still in the restroom, but both of my legs were numb from squatting for too long. I leaned against the wall and stood up, walking in a daze back to my own workstation and sitting down. The voice that just said, "Congratulations to the host, Claude Bush, for completing the mission and returning to the real world," kept repeating in my mind. Claude Bush, our boss, actually transmigrated into the same book as me? My gaze fell on my computer desktop. There was a sticky note. Things to do before Lucia Hood retires. Eat a bucket of pancake rolls from the famous restaurant. Complete a puzzle with 10,000 pieces. Run into the street and dance in the rain. Turn the bathroom into a bubble house. I finally remembered the details that I couldn't grasp before. The man who likes to tap his leg, and he always put 5 ice cubes in his coffee. Who else could it be but Claude Bush? So, Claude Bush is Alex Medlin? My unreliable heart skipped a beat again. "Lucia, Mr. Bush is calling for you." Assistant Linda called me with a smile. My legs went weak, and I took a deep breath before standing up. I should go to the hospital another day and see if my heart can handle this. Thump, thump, thump. I nervously knocked on the door. "Come in." I pushed open the door and saw Claude Bush standing by the window, holding a cup of coffee. His hair was impeccably styled today, and his noble demeanor resembled Alex. He put down the cup and motioned for me to come over. He grabbed my arm and checked here and there. He even made me spin around. Seeing him like this, I inexplicably became less nervous. "Are you okay? Is there anything you feel uncomfortable about?" he asked with concern. "No." Claude cleared his throat awkwardly and gestured for me to sit down. "Actually, I transmigrated into the book first." "What?" I didn't understand what that had to do with me transmigrating later. At that time, the system gave me the task of capturing the vicious supporting female character and making her fall in love with me. "Anne?" Claude took a sip of his coffee. I asked the system if I could be a Nitrogen Gold player, and it agreed. So I spent money to bring you in and ended up in Irene Storm's body. Before my expression could change, he immediately added, "No matter what world you are in, you still like me, right?" I completely darkened my face. "I'm sorry." Claude lowered his head. I looked at him like this and remembered the days we spent together in the world of novels. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. "Seeing you like this, I can't tell if I like Alex or you." Claude looked up and couldn't help but smile. "As long as you don't blame me, I can pursue you again." I asked the question that had been on my mind since I realized it. "Why do you like me?" "Because you write good copy." I remembered the copy I wrote for those reproductive health products. All of these were rejected by the minister at that time. Indeed, without a certain taste, one cannot enter the world of erotic novels. Anyway, give me some time. I walked out of his office with a cold face. I couldn't get over it all day. When it was time to leave in the evening, it suddenly started raining. My colleagues complained about the inaccurate weather forecast. I frowned and walked outside. When I got off the elevator, I saw Claude waiting at the door. He reached out to me. "Want to get wet in the rain together?" I hesitated and refused to go forward. Seeing this, he came over and whispered in my ear. "This artificial rain costs $5 million. I stared at him in disbelief. "I do." I threw my bag into his arms. Following his embrace, I happily held onto his waist. From today on, I can also say that I'm dating the CEO.